Practicing medicine is extraordinarily satisfying when you have enough time to actually listen to a patient and find out what's going on. And when I was in practice, I practiced from 1981 until 1992, and then I did a PhD, and eventually I came back and did just palliative care. It's what happens when you realize the patient has come for more than the reason that they've booked. It's the classic thing in medicine is the patient is leaving the room, and as you're closing the door, they say, "Do you think chest pain is significant?" That's the kind of moment that opens up everything. You start all over again. In the case I'm thinking of, it was an elderly woman who came in with chronic neck pain that she'd had for 40 years. Her head was off to one side. And we talked for some time, and I tried some pressure on the neck muscles, which sometimes happens and helps. And at the end she said, "Would you mind if I just took a few minutes to tell you something that's been troubling me for 40 years? And I said, "Oh, please do, sit down." Knowing I had an office full of patients out there. And it turned out that she had had an affair with her doctor 40 years before. And as soon as she started telling me, her shoulders relaxed and the pain went away. Now that's a heartbreak, actually, to think that someone's been carrying that all those years and carrying it in their muscles. What's the teaching of that? I guess it's that we have to listen to each other. We have to listen for something that's below what is the surface problem that people come with in medicine. And I loved working in medicine. I loved doing deliveries and spending lots of time there. I loved working with little kids. I did some hypnosis, used hypnosis with little kids, and found that was hugely, hugely helpful. So, and a lot of medicine is teaching the person how to solve their own problem, their own physical problem, how to get the strength to deal with things other than through medications. Well, palliative care was my favorite part of medicine. I started in it right after internship. Michael Downing had just founded the hospice in Victoria and called to see if I'd be interested in doing his training program. So I did it. There were only 3 of us working at that time in palliative care and only 45 patients, so it was really wonderful. I was setting up a practice at the same time, and this was what I did part-time. I just loved it. It's a place where you have genuine teamwork. You've got nurses and doctors and counselors and volunteers. You've got people who'll come in and do foot massage and people who'll go out into the community and play chess with someone. And everyone is an equal part of the community. So you'd have a team meeting and they'd say, "Well, what does Mr. Jones need this week?" And the counselor would say, "Well, Mr. Jones asked for foot massage." Not a visit from the doctor, but for foot massage. And it really made me realize about the whole spectrum of healing and what people need. And so much of it is contact, not an answer, because in palliative care, the answer that you'd like to give is, "I'm going to do this for you and you're not going to die." But instead of that, you're all saying, "Well, we know you're going to die, so let's make this process as pain-free and as symptom-free as we possibly can. Let's make this a valuable time of your life and valuable for your family as well." So how do we do that? It's a hugely satisfying place to work. We found that lots of the specialists, once they got over the kind of reluctance that everyone has to deal with dying patients, would hang out with us. They'd come and drink coffee in the hospice unit because of the sense of warmth and loving and joy, if you can imagine that. There were nurses singing in the corridors. There were people laughing and talking, and it was just completely different from other parts of medicine. It's not quite the same anymore. It's become huge. It's become far more sort of efficient, I suppose, in the sense of having to see patients in a shorter period of time. But it's still got that same soul. Well, for the past year, I've been doing something I never imagined I'd be doing, and that is I'm teaching kids to sew, which seems a funny thing to do if you're a retired doctor or a retired professor. I've been writing a novel, it's held up, I'm not doing that, but I am teaching kids to sew, and I just love it. And it's because again and again I get that moment when I ask them to do something and there's a big click, and it really isn't about sewing. So yesterday I had a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old who are learning how to sew. They're making puppets, and I have a wonderful Jim Henson puppet pattern that we're using. So I said to them, what do you think kids your age have to learn right now to help them for 10 years from now? Because in 10 years you're going to be 20 and 22, you're going to be needed in your community, the world's going to be really different. What are you going to have to know? And they said, well, I mean, we have to know how to sew. We have to learn how to repair things. We have to learn about, well, stuff like preparing food and preserving food, because, you know, we might have to get along without technology. We need to know some of the skills of our grandparents, like carpentry. We have to learn about compassion, and we have to learn about forgiveness, and about, we're learning some conflict resolution. We're going to have to learn more about how to get along with each other. And every time that happens, I'm just blown away. I think I could teach sewing forever if it always turned into this.